Does education play a role in leadership and politics? And is politics leadership or leadership politics? This is Authentic Info Podcast. I welcome you back to another episode. I'm your host, Admas Andile. Now, there's a speech made by some political leader of the ANC in Eastern Cape. I just forgot his name. And he was lambasting on the political analysts, saying that most of them don't even have a junior degree in political science. Now, what is the role or what career opportunities does political science as a qualification has? And what is the role of political science in leadership? And what is the role of political science in politics? And what is there a need for politicians to carry political related qualifications or qualifications related to politics? Is it a requirement for leaders to be educated? And why is it that most leaders who occupy high-ranking positions in government, by the way, are not educated? They lack qualifications, but they don't want to be discredited by people who they say are not educated, and they themselves do not recognize education where it's due. I think this is a good topic, although the title might be long, but it's something that we have to carefully look at. We have had leaders like President Mbeki, who was well qualified. He fought in the armed struggle. He took part in education himself to develop himself I think he holds a master's degree from England. He was one of the best and still economist, and well deserved to be president. Now, we've had a leader like Mandela who struggled a lot when it comes to education. I mean, it took President Mandela, as a fact, close to 40 years for him to attain his law degree. And he ended up graduating and finishing his degree through correspondence with UNISA. Now, we have had a president like Zuma in South Africa, former President Zuma, who didn't even see the door of a high school, but he became president. That is the highest position in politics. So the question is, what is the role of education in leadership? And what is and is leadership political, and is politics leadership? Because politicians find themselves in the highest ranking positions of the economy, even in business. But those who went to school to study find themselves serving under these guys. So what is the role of education here? We have formal and informal education. Formal education is that of grades where you are tested, you are tried, and then you are given marks, and then you progress to the next grade and things like that. And informal is that of study through interest, or of developing things that comes to mind, innovating. And then you find that those who have studied come to work for you. We have had people who have built ships. They never studied anywhere. We have built cars. They never studied. We have built bigger machinery. They never studied anywhere. But those who have studied still need to come to these guys and beg for work. Secretaries, PAs of high offices in government are educated people. But the people who they serve, the people who they handle diaries for, are uneducated. Politics have positions in government that they deploy their members into. We have seen ministers moving from one ministry to the other. We have seen heads of department moving from one department to the other. But it's very difficult to find, for example, a physiotherapist moving from the department of physiotherapy to media, or to have a high-profile journalist moving from his position to engineering. But these people are educated. Only politicians can do that. And what does this mean to education? What is the missing point or link in education that causes this? Because that guy raises a very good question for debate, that political analysts, or most political analysts, do not carry a degree, a junior degree in politics, but they are busy analyzing politics and they don't understand politics. The person who is saying that doesn't carry themselves a degree in politics, but he wants his moves to be analyzed by people who carry degrees. So this is very interesting, but I also don't find a position to take when it comes to this. To say, what is the role of education actually when it comes to leadership? Do leaders really have to study, or people must study in order to support leaders? Do politicians really have to study, or they must move with people who study? For example, Julius Malema became popular without any degree. But we see him today with qualifications, but he's surrounded by a lot of scholars. When you check the leadership of the ANC, President Ramaphosa is educated, but it doesn't carry many degrees. It's honorary doctorates and things like that. And the politicians in the ANC do not have qualifications. And when you check in the departments, all departments in the government that is ANC-led, you will find that those who occupy high-ranking positions do not carry qualifications. Only those who are on the ground have qualifications. So what type of leadership is that? That doesn't recognize education. And what does this mean? When we check the leadership of the ANC, do they support education? Do they hate education? Do they not believe in the education system of South Africa? Because we see them taking their children abroad. So these are some of the questions that we have to raise in order to try and understand the dynamics of leadership, especially in the politics of South Africa. What is the role of education? Why do we really have to go to school, guys? Do we really have to be professionals? Why do we have a BA degree as a qualification in South Africa? Because with that thing, you are unemployable. And if no one employs you, there's nothing that you can do with a BA. BA Criminal Justice, what are you going to do with that? BA Youth in Development, what is that? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to develop? You yourself are not developed. So what is the role of education in leadership and politics? And is leadership politics? And is politics leadership? Why do South African high-profile politicians do not consider educated South Africans to occupy positions of leadership in government? They deploy comrades who are clueless and they're expected to go and lead in portfolios that they have no clue about. Cities are collapsing in the hands of politicians. Meanwhile, thousands and thousands and thousands of young, educated South Africans are roaming in the streets without jobs because politicians have taken over everything. Do politicians, South African politicians, really believe in education? Why is it difficult to occupy a high-ranking position in South Africa with a qualification? Why do you have to first serve the department for more than 20 years for them to give you the second rank from your junior position? Why do South Africans who are educated have to see high-ranking positions or occupy high-ranking positions towards the pension? Age 55, 56, you become a DD or a assistant director or director. Why do positions of directorship, why are they given to people who are politically affiliated with the ruling party? Why does the ruling party deploy people to strategic positions that requires someone with a specific qualification? And they don't consider documents or qualifications. Why is it difficult for government departments to create jobs specifically for qualified people? Why is the government, the ANC-led government, it easily open posts or advertise posts for general recruitment? Meanwhile, there are thousands or millions of educated professionals who can professionalize the departments of all government in South Africa. Why don't they be specific to say, we want 3,000 social workers, we want 3,000 or 10,000 teachers? We don't hear such. You will only hear that we want 10,000 police. For what? For them to get firearms and then come back and shoot their girlfriends. You take someone with only a grade 12, you teach them firearm for 2 weeks and expect that person to be responsible with that firearm. And you give them 12,500, they buy their first polo, they become reckless. Meanwhile, there's someone who is qualified, whose mind and brain is full of knowledge. The person is on the street, and this person has to be looked down at by a person who was generally recruited into government and given a firearm and afford some small RDP house and a polo, VW polo, because that's the only starter pack and you are stuck. Why don't they employ professionals even into the security sector? Why don't they say in January, all those who have BA, these BA qualifications must go to the nearest department and register for permanent employment. And they will be given a certain stipend until there's enough money. Then they get salaries that are equivalent to their levels. Why don't the state do that? The state will only apply or employ people generally, someone with a matric. And you find out this person, as soon as they get a job, they don't go to study further. They pay their way up. If it's a woman, she will sleep her way up. If it's a man, he will pay his way up and buy positions. And then after 10, 15 years, the person is a general. It's only matric. And then someone with a master's degree sitting at home, wearing an ANC t-shirt, waiting for the other 5 years so that he can get another ANC t-shirt, trying to become a councillor. end up shooting each other in the villages, fighting to be a white council, one position for 5 years. Thousands of educated young people. It's bad. So, what is the role of education in leadership and politics? How do these leaders understand or take education? How do these politicians understand or take education as a matter of importance that needs to be given attention when creating positions or posts or vacancies in government? Because educated people cannot be a liability of the private sector. Even government must have positions vacant for these people, for us. We are struggling here doing podcasts because there are no jobs for people with BA. So the government must be fair and be the first to employ their people. And then people will move if they want from public to the private sector. These are just my views. I am Admire Sandelecha. This is Authentic Info Podcast. Let's grow together. Hit like, subscribe, comment, share. Thank you.